Thank all of you who are going to watch this video. Thank all of you who are going to share this video. Thank all of you who are going to see the video at some point in the future. It is for keeping a record. Today is Friday, June 11th. It's 10:54. I should write down 10:54. The name of this video is The Divine Right of Kings and Deja Vu. Now, a long time ago, I started doing live videos and created something like a protocol for live videos in Trinidad and Tobago. And so while we're doing this live video, I thought I would begin by pointing out some history to those looking on. When I started doing live videos, there was nobody to emulate. There was just a new platform that was available that you could use to share information. Prior to live videos, I was writing a lot of notes. That was the first thing Facebook allowed. After Facebook went from flinging sheep at people and buying drinks online, but it wasn't real drinks, it was fake drinks, it was just flirting. Facebook, Zuckerberg, like every horny teenager, was looking for a way to get into girls' pants. And Zuckerberg came up with the idea of creating a website for college students, because he was in college and he didn't have the ability to initiate conversations with girls. So he wanted to come up with all those comedies that start with nerds wanting to come up with a way to get to speak to girls. Is exactly the truth as to how Facebook was started. Facebook was started to create a platform that would allow college students, mostly girls, to enter details, and nerds and others would be able to have a conversation with them online. And then it evolved into something a little more, because people outside of college, they started to communicate with people. They didn't just limit it to Zuckerberg and friends' dating needs. Other people started adding other people to their groups. So Facebook had to expand or die at a time when MySpace was number one. I ain't gonna go further than that. But Facebook expanded and became a social media platform. It changed what it was for, and it changed the way we communicate. And so they started adding things. At first, you could only write a small status, and next to your name on Facebook was the word is. So Philip Edward Alexander is. And you had to begin your sentence. You had to write something that started with the word is, like Philip Edward Alexander is thinking about going to Royal Castle for lunch. And it had a certain amount of characters you could use. I think it was like 86 or 90 or something like that. And so your whole sentence had to start with the word is and had to make up that. But as it began to expand and people stopped using it for dating and they started using it to talk about more serious issues, Facebook itself expanded its own platform and started offering different things. The modern day Facebook that you know is not the Facebook that was started. Then they created something called notes, and you could write a note, which was an essay length thing, which was longer than the 90 characters that you were allowed. So I use notes for political and other musings. And then Facebook changed, and besides having a profile, you had a wall. And you could write on people's walls, and people could write on your wall. And then they were able to offer other things. And well, when live video became possible, live video, because there was a time you couldn't even share links on Facebook. You couldn't bring anything outside of Facebook into Facebook. But it grew to the point where it is now. And I think it's gone as far as it can go. And I think that nobody planned that this would be how we communicate. This was never a thesis. Nobody had a clue. MySpace, and there were other smaller ones that Facebook killed all when Facebook, and it wasn't Facebook alone that killed it, the demand killed it, and Facebook was fast to respond to the demand. But in every situation, a monopoly is not a good thing. And we need competition for Facebook. And I will work to promote anything else that comes out that will give competition to Facebook, because competition is what raises quality and lowers price, and it gives us options. Competition is good. Competition is healthy. If you listen to the Wall Street movie, the original Wall Street movie, where Michael Douglas created that, had that speech where greed is good, greed is healthy, and greed, and it created in the 80s greed that brought us 40 years later to here, because handfuls of Trinidadians took him at his word, because a lot of the people who are in government now, behind the scenes financing government, were teenagers in the 80s when we saw Wall Street, and we all wanted our hair slicked back looking like Gordon Gekko, and being able to have all the girls and drive the fancy cars and buy shitty artwork and pretend that it makes us cultured because we have some money. But to get there, you needed greed, but greed destroyed the world. It was a movie. Life wasn't supposed to imitate art that much. But take out the word greed and put the word competition. And competition is a better word, because competition brings out the best in all of us. The Olympics is or World Cup is the epitome of this. It shows competition of people's abilities to take them as far as they could go. Anyway, we need competition for Facebook. The name of this video is The Divine Right of Kings. There was a time when the king could prove to people through bullshit that he was appointed by God, and he could rule over the people only until the next God-appointed person come along and kill him. The current royal family in England are the descendants of a murderous tribe who crossed over from Scotland and killed the King of England at the time and took over. So all of royalty and all of history is about invasion, violence, seizing, and then telling people God sent me to do it. God sent me to kill that whole family and all their children and take over and rule over you. And people have been lazy for a long time, and they've been buying bullshit for a long time. And yeah, I could see God thinking that. Eric the Red, I could see you and God having a conversation. God saying, Eric, go and kill everybody and take over. But that didn't last long, because we ended up with things like democracy, when the rest of the people realized, wait a minute, if every jackass, any jackass who could raise a bunch of sellswords could come along and kill people and take over, then perhaps it's not really the divine right of kings. Mako book 2. Anyway, the reason for giving that whole Facebook spiel is this Facebook page that we're on is limited to the amount of broadcast, even though it has 60,000 likes and almost 100,000 followers. If you challenge Facebook, I didn't say challenge Facebook, if you challenge agendas that Facebook subscribes to, Facebook limits your ability to communicate. And that's, to me, from the time Facebook, and it started with COVID-19 mostly, but from the time Facebook started limiting your ability to have an opinion, it's over for me. We're still using it now because it's the only game in town, but I know how the marketplace works, and that somebody else is going to be able to come up with something, because a lot of people are very disenchanted with the way Facebook operates this platform. So while at this point I'm watching 303 people watching, that should be 1,200 people, I know that Facebook has told us they put a limit on the page, because we're telling people things about this virus that Facebook, for some reason or the other, doesn't want us to tell people. They don't want people to know truth. And all I've ever been about is truth. All I've ever been about is trying to make my country, and by extension the world, a better place to live. If I was like one of these little dick, small ego fellas, I'd have sell my sword to the PNM financiers or the UNC financiers a long time ago. They have shithounds in government who don't know the job. They're not trained to do the job that they're being paid. Big taxpayers' dollars, but it's not. It's all through history. People have been lazy. Anyway, back on point, the divine right of kings. In our situation, and it's called the divine right of kings and deja vu. Deja vu, somebody coined a phrase, you know, deja vu, is when you experience something that you feel you've experienced before. Well, deja vu is, I think I've heard the same shit before. And the divine right of kings and deja vu, we've been hearing shit for a long time. But what the government needs to also remember, especially the smirking clown Colm Imbert, who insulted every single Trinidadian when he sat with the IMF and said that he raised the price of gas 3 times in the riot. Yet he was trying to say that we had them properly shackled back to slavery days. It's massa. I could tell him what they want, that I wanted them ain't doing nothing, and then he skin out that ugly face he have. I mean, seriously. I want to tell you something. The government of the day, they are a hateful bunch. When Colm Imbert starts the week talking about pensioners living too long, 1 million people should have been in the street that day. There was a time people used to eat their royalty. Eat them. Government is not supposed to be able to disrespect the public. It is only the state of emergency that's preventing me from telling Trinidadians, come out in the streets, you know, let's go, let's march now. Let's 500,000 of us go now. We can't. There's a state of emergency. And that's the only reason that's preventing it. Because all of us who are talking on Facebook and everybody who's saying they're fed up should be outside in the street right now. Bring some sandwiches and some juice. We're in it for the long haul. And the day you cross a certain number in the street, government has no choice. They go wait you out 3 days, 4 days, 500,000 people in the street, camping, eating, living, people working, helping each other, support each other. We don't want this anymore. We don't want this. We want our country to work better. There's no divine right of kings anymore. We, the people of Trinidad who own the seats in the house, we, the taxpayers who pay the salaries of the people whose asses sit on those seats, we're not happy with how it's operated. But there's a state of emergency, so we can't call people out. So we realize that. So we had to mash our brakes and wait. But you have to, right now, contemplate how could a government minister who is speaking on behalf of the state that entered into a contractual arrangement with poor people, because you see the National Insurance Board is poor people. If Unit Trust had said to some big shots what Colm Imbert said to these poor people, they would have had so many lawsuits registered against them. That day, that Unit Trust would have put out a public release saying we misspoke. But Colm could do that because it's poor people. And it's poor people they're taking advantage of. And you're telling people, oh, you're living too long. And that's an insult to the people. The national insurance that you deducted, or the government that you're a part of 30 years now, that government passed that as a law. They weren't consulted. You told them. You said, we are going to take out of your salary, out of your meager wages every month, something called national insurance. And you took it without their approval. They had no choice. In fact, it was a criminal act to not pay it. So you insisted that there is an arrangement and that the government knew what it was doing. And over 58 years, besides the oil money that your party and your government also pilfered, you used taxpayers' funds. You used it, National Insurance funds. National Insurance Board, the board that entered into that arrangement with Apsara and Tamnaktai, the entire board should be jailed. Jailed. Hear me again. The entire board that took National Insurance funds and purchased Apsara Tamnaktai building without doing due diligence and a proper valuation, with scant regard for those people's funds. The entire bunch should be jailed. The line minister at the time should be jailed. They knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. And for not calling it back in and for not insisting that they paid, you robbed poor people. You robbed poor old people. And you're coming out to tell them that they're living too long? Jackass? You're doing like you're a young boy. What I don't understand is some of these people who are making all of this bullshit and cruelly affecting so badly the elders of this country, a bunch of old people themselves. Kid Rowley in the departure lounge. He know that. If he have a next 5 years, he lucky. Call members, you could look at our man's face and see how diseased he is. He has splotches and splashes all over his face. When he skin up to smile, it's like looking at something out of a horror movie. You could see he not well. These people behave as if they will live forever, and treating the elders of this country so badly. What they did, and listen, about a post Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it turned out to be, it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I in a lockdown, I in a state of emergency. Monday could fall on Saturday, it doesn't make a difference to the routine of my week or my day right now. I waiting. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, same day. Same day. In fact, we got 2 holidays in 1 week. And for the pleasure of those 2 holidays, they lock us down more. Don't give us no more holidays. We don't know more holidays. Cancel all. Holidays are helping we right now. Because only making a shit show of the country. Only took the nation for fools. So you told them, you came out Saturday and you say, we have vaccine from everywhere. We have vaccine from America. We have vaccine from China. We have vaccine from Grenada. We have vaccine from Barbados. We have vaccine from India. And we get vaccine from Africa. We have vaccine everywhere. Come! So the people came and you lied. Keith Rowley should be fired immediately. 500,000 people should go and fire him, but they can't because there's a state of emergency. And that's the only thing protecting you. Because the country now fed up of you. So you went and you stunt for them. And you stunt and lie. We have vaccine from India. We take a loan and we buy it from China. We have vaccine from Grenada. Even Dominica sent some vaccine for we. Barbados give we vaccine. Kamala Harris called me. She sending vaccine. We have vaccine coming from Africa. So everybody came out on your bullshit. And they lined up. And they line up like the same crowd that you call out as Zest and Tobago, that you and your handful of Neanderthals trying to rewrite the conversation and change history to pretend you didn't do it, that you didn't sit down in that big white chair to pretend like some tin pot third world dictator. Saying Tobago have no COVID, you know. The place to be is Tobago. Everybody can come to Tobago. This time it's not the ferry. We have plenty ferry. So come across and go to Tobago and come and go as you please. And you take 50,000 jackasses with you and spike the blasted COVID. And now you want to lock down the country and state of emergency. And we're putting up with all of that. We're putting up with all of that bullshit right now, and we're tolerating all of that nonsense right now, Keith Rowley, because you're the Prime Minister, and it is the people's law-abiding nature that's holding you there. It's because Trinis are good and decent people. When Coleman Burt skin up his face for the IMF, what he didn't realize is he was trying to insult good and decent people, because it is because the people are good and decent people, they've not rioted as yet. Because Trinidadians are in the most part church-going, law-abiding people, they've taken all of this, all of these years, and they've put up with all of this nonsense all of these 58 years. And they've tried, you know, they've been betrayed, they've been lied to, they've been led astray. You see, they don't know it's the same handful of criminals behind all of these parties. And like leeches and parasites, if the party that they're on right now sucking out the treasury dollars, if that party lose government, all they have to do is wait for the next party, whoever it is to win, to go inside of that party and find the criminals and get them bag of money. You know what they do? They just take them to party and get them girls for days. They just take them away, they just take them on a trip. They just say, listen, we want to talk to you about having a fete in the sea. We will send a plane ticket for you. Come across and we talk here. Or we want to talk to you about creating a new system of dealing with plastics. We will pick you up on a private plane and bring you to Dubai. The conversation is in Dubai. And you go to Dubai and it's an orgy for 4 and 5 days. Don't worry about that now, man. We'll talk plastic at the end. Your belly full, your pocket full, you go. They come to pick you up in a car to take you to the airport, and they pick you up in a Range Rover or a Porsche Cayenne, and in the passenger seat next to you is one of them 5 Roses handlebar, and there's only $100 US inside of there, and you're watching about $50,000 US in a bag, and you sit down there and you say, what is this about? And they get out the car and they leave the engine running, and they say, but drive that for a couple of days now. I know what bag you're talking about. I know what bag you're talking about. That's where the term bagman come from. Bagman. So they just have to go in and corrupt. They corrupted the NAR. They destroyed the NAR. And if they couldn't get them to fight fast enough, they unleash Abu Bakr. They give Abu Bakr a gun. Where Abu Bakr get gun from? Where he get gun from? 114 insurgents was armed. Who armed them? We never hear. We never had a proper hearing into how that took place. This is the only shit show in the world where 114 people could take over the state, hold the parliament hostage, hold the journalists hostage, and after all that is said and done, nobody knows who bring the guns in and who armed them. Nobody knows. And we don't have to ask. This is a country. They did a Scott drug report and Trowody report because it exposed people that wasn't supposed to get exposed. We wanted them to do a drug report like we wanted them to. You see, you can hang Dolce. You can hang low-level fellas. That you could do. And nobody in the media asks, but wait now, the man sentenced to death. He died in a couple of days. Why we don't have an interview with him? He could talk some shit, but he could give you some truth too. Why we not getting that? Because it's easy to silence those who are the lowest level, but you can't go up against the real cartel in this country. Besides the fact that in 58 years, we've lost $3 trillion that the country lawfully made. They stole that. But they also passed more money through this country than the national economy was responsible for. And the PNM did that. And they don't want you to ask these questions. They don't want you to ask these questions, you know. They position themselves as the Black Party. They sell themselves as the Black Party. Fitzgerald Hines makes sure to remind them when he go with the coquille broom to beat the fence post, to beat the street sign in Beatham, is to tell them, call to action, dog whistle. Remember Calcutta ship? Remember that the Indians and them coming to buy Tobago is to appeal to the blacks. But what I don't understand though, why black people not trying to figure out how carnival that came out of slavery's response to Massa pre-Lenten fetes, because that's what carnival came from. In the plantations, in the plantation house, they used to have all of the ladies and the gents come over to the big plantation houses. They had big fetes. Carnival, it was farewell to the flesh, and it was 2 days before Lent, and they would get on bad. And the slaves for 2 days on the plantation could do what they want. They was eating and drinking and all the party too. And they used to watch the grand women in their flowing dresses. You ever watch Best Village and watch Dance the Ballet and see them in the big dress doing that with the dress? That is them imitating Massa's mistresses and the women of the plantation, white women. Carnival came out of that. Jump around the whole plantation, beating drum, and there's a mishmash of all the different African culture that was there and their music, because them don't understand French music, or they prefer their music, but you get to have a parade, and it grew into something. And if that is carnival, how come black people not in charge of carnival? I don't understand how come the people who say that the PNM is a black party because the media says so. When you form a third party and you go on the media, they tell you who's your base. The media tells you on television that Africans vote PNM, Indians vote UNC. They say that to you. But I want to ask of the people who believe that, how come then there are so few black faces at the top of that party? How come? Colm Imbert is a real estate developer. Yeah, he has a law degree and an engineering degree, I've been told. I don't know, I've never seen them. But I've never seen Colm in a court of law. I don't know that he has a shingle somewhere. Colm Imbert, attorney at law. I don't know if that exists. I've never heard him try a case with his name called. And as an engineer, he is responsible for some colossal failures along the way. So I don't think he trades on that. I think his success is real estate development and a contractor. How did that qualify him to be the Minister of Finance in a country that has so many bright people who have been in the finance world, and many of them of African descent. If the PNM is the black party, and there are more Africans more qualified than Colin Imbert can ever be to be Minister of Finance, why is Colin Imbert the Minister of Finance? Simon de Nobrega is a bank teller who married Nicole de Nobrega, who's Nicole de Freitas, whose father, Richard Fox de Freitas, hired Simon to put food on his grandchildren's table. Simon de Nobrega, for years, sold steel coating for Fox de Freitas in the construction industry. He tried to sell steel coating to me. I lived on the same compound with Simon de Nobrega, who is now the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin Central and the Minister of Communication. We lived on the same compound, ironically, that Colin Imbert built, and ironically, walls fell down on that compound too. But Simon de Nobrega is not trained to be a communications man of any level, at any level. He could sell you coatings for steel. He could count money in a bank. But he cannot tell you how he comes to be the Minister of Communication in a country facing a pandemic. And if there are so many people who are far more qualified, far more experienced than Simon has none. He has zero experience as a Minister of Communications. If there are so many black people, people of color, grandchildren of Africa, card-holding members of the PNM, Simon just arrived in the PNM. You see up at the top there, when Keith took a Phelps on stage and raised his hand and tell them, member for life, he was supposed to be the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin Central, because they was firing Amory Brown for all of Amory's sins. And I'm not telling you that Amory was the wrong color for the job. Fitzgerald Hines said that about Keith Rowley. Fitzgerald Hines said he was crossing the road. Well, 91.1, I was on the radio. And even though the PNM will block me now from speaking on the radio and the media, I was the person, when the People's Partnership was in office, used to make sure that the PNM ministers, especially fellows like Fitzgerald Hines and Maxi Coffey, would have their say. And Fitzgerald Hines said to the country that he was crossing the street and he bounced up a man who was talking to a fella who heard from somebody who was at a dinner and was told in the dinner, somebody else said at the dinner that Keith Rowley too black to be Prime Minister. 6 hands, he remembered. 6 hands. Come right back. I'm not saying that. But I am saying, look at this cabinet and tell me if this is reflective of the grandchildren of Africa, without whom the PNM cannot win a bingo or a barbecue in this country. Without the black vote, without the corridor that Dr. Lackey's promised to bring down for Robbie, he promised to bring down the corridor. Like that is the purpose of the grandchildren of Africa, to beat them into a riot if it is against the PNM. Look at Rohan Sinanan. Rohan Sinanan spent his whole adult life packing grocery shelves in Foodmaster supermarket in, I think it's Tunapuna. Rohan Sinanan is a successful grocery manager. How did Rohan Sinanan end up as the Minister of Works and Transport in a party that had so many more people? And Rohan Sinanan is our next just come. How does Rohan Sinanan qualify to be Minister of Works and Transport? It's like Robert Haddad as head of Trinidad and Tobago's football body. Besides the fact that Robert Haddad never kicked a ball in his life. Never. He know nothing about football. He's a member of no club. He was never in no... There are people in this country with so much experience. You are going to put Robert Haddad to chair our football body. Why? The people who are 99% of the people who play football in this country are grandchildren of Africa. So how come you couldn't find a black man to run the football body or a black man to coach them? I ask these questions because it seems to me under the PNM, the people least qualified for any real post in this country are the grandchildren of Africa. Look at the cabinet's composition. Look at who has the biggest jobs. How does Stuart Young, a lawyer, end up Minister of National Security? When the People's Partnership was in office, I was bringing an action against the People's Partnership for a fire engine that they had pulled up, and I had all of the evidence. I was the person who bust the mark. And I had evidence, and I had a junior lawyer and someone else in it with me. We had created an organization called Enough. That's where those jerseys came from. And we were going after the government for spending $5 million to pull up a fire truck that wasn't worth $1 million and gave it to a contractor as obvious corruption. And we met with Stuart Young at a little coffee shop across from King George V Park, and me and those two other persons met with Stuart, who his one assurance to us was he is not political, and while he may have been Keith Rowley's attorney, he has no interest in any kind of politics at all. And then he parachutes into the PNM. He parachutes into the PNM, and he is given senior cabinet positions, Minister of National Security. He knows nothing about national security. He may dress like a soldier or a fake police and try to play one on TV, but he knows nothing about national security. He was never SRP. He was never in the Coast Guard. He was never in the Army. He was never a cadet. He was never even a security guard. How did you end up with Stuart Young as your Minister of National Security, if that was something that required somebody with experience of the post or at least longevity in the PNM? How did this just come parachutist become your Minister of National Security, if not for any other reason but payback? How did Stuart Young is now the Minister of Energy. He don't even use oil in his hair. How does Stuart know anything about bid rounds? He's talking about organizing bid rounds and to get more income for the country from oil and gas. What does Stuart Young know? He knows less about energy than he knew about national security. How is Stuart Young the Minister of Energy? Now, I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I think race politics is the worst kind of politics. I think race politics is reprehensible, disgusting, obscene, and beneath us. But I am not the one selling a political party aimed at racism. I am not the one telling black people in this country that my party, the PNM, is your party, and your granny and your tanty and everybody slave here. Because the other questions that need to ask, how come when it is time to cut salaries and to cut wages, because things tight in the country, how come the people that get cut are the lowest on the rung? I am willing to step out on a limb this morning and tell you that there is not a single Aboud, Hadid, Sabga, Chin, Nahus, Sinanan in CPEP. And I put myself on the line for that. I'm willing to bet not one of those names can be found in CPEP as an employee. So why is it so easy to cut their salaries? This is a country that created fellas like Carl Hudson Phillips. He come from Grenada. Fenton Ramsey, I don't know where he come from. But Trinidad is the place where everybody find themselves. Derek Walcott, everybody find themselves here to prosper. Russell Martineau. This country has legal luminaries of every type. How Faris Al-Rawi is your Attorney General? How? What does Faris bring to the table that could tell you? Now watch that lineup. Colm, Simon de Nobrega, Faris Al-Rawi, Stuart Young, Rohan Sinanan. Watch it. Look at the entire cabinet and tell me I want you to hear the full cabinet. In Trinidad. Listen, eh? And then you'll tell me that you have a black man in charge of public utilities, but the board that runs WASA and TNTech answers to the Minister of Finance. Don't answer to him. He don't appoint nobody. Look at the cabinet. Franklin can. Look at the cabinet. Look at who gets ministerial position. Randall Mitchell. Who is Randall Mitchell? He get to be the minister. And besides the fact, besides the fact that it is obvious that you can't come from inside the belly of the party and become something of value. Clarence Rambarat, as Minister of Agriculture, would sound like a fit and nothing getting done. More was done under the UNC and the People's Partnership for Agriculture, and that was not enough. Shamfa Cudjoe, who would pass the original Shamfa straight. They look so different. But Shamfa Cudjoe, who knows nothing about sport, is the Minister of Sport. You just have to take a look at what this government, look at their leadership, and look at who has positions in that party, and you will understand why the country is the shit show that it is today. Without Gary Griffith as Commissioner of Police, this country drowning already. Gary brought steady hands. And people tell me I sound like I support Gary all the time. But Gary is competent and capable. He relies on his performance numbers, not who he know. Gary relies on his performance numbers to demonstrate why he is the best man for that job. Not the best black man or the best any kind of man, the best man. Is Colm Imbert the best man as Minister of Finance? Hell no. I could name 10 right now. Rowley knows Mariano Brown is a better man for that job. But Mariano Brown is not a Keith Rowley askisser, or up till now, he's not. But I understand that the people behind the PNM who are responsible for appointments, they're capable of coercing and encouraging people to make some strange decisions when it comes to their politics. Is Simon de Nobrega the best man or person for Minister of Communication? I could think of 10 media trained. Look, you have Shelley Das. Shelley Das married to a political neophyte whose only claim to fame is his last name. You have Shelley Das, she in media a long time. Give her the work. Give her the job. Why she is not your Minister of Communication? Why does it always have to look like you're giving office as a reward for support? Why it can't be that the best person for the job? Now you tell me, in a country that created fellas like Bruno Mitchell, ophthalmologist, Haynes, the kidney specialist, we have one of the best cardiac thoracic surgeons in the world right now, a Trinidadian. You're trying to tell me the kind of doctors? Look at Dr. Bratt. Everybody know Dr. Bratt. If you want to use somebody, use people who people will listen to, who will understand. Dr. Bratt has been writing a column in the Guardian or the Express for years. He's been calming people down and informing them. And I'm sure it is a labor of love for him, because Guardian is paid $300 for a column. Can't be that. Can't be for the money. So it has to be that he just wants to help the country. Why are you not using him? Why Terence D'Alsing, who for this entire last 3 days has demonstrated in a very short space of time how incompetent he really is. And I tell you this, the reason people have died from COVID-19 in this country is because we've had a shithong Minister of National Security who couldn't secure the borders, and a shithong Minister of Health who couldn't deal with the cases that came as a result. And those two shithongs couldn't be in office if the Prime Minister himself wasn't an elaborate shithong, making shithong decisions. And that's the truth. And that alone should be the truth. When you step onto a plane, going to have surgery, even getting into a taxi, the person cooking your food in the restaurant don't have to be the same race as you. They don't have to come from the same tribe as you. You just want to make sure you get to your destination safe. Or that the person who conducting the surgery while you're out cold know the ass they're doing. Or even that the food that you're getting properly clean. There's a restaurant in Maraval that I ate from a couple times. I tell people the roti not bad, and then I find out they don't clean their shrimp. And if they don't clean their shrimp, they don't clean nothing else. And I'll go out of my way to pass that place straight. And I'm disgusted. And the only reason I'm not putting their name on blast is because I didn't give their name to people to give them the benefit. And that's why the only place I will buy roti, I'll go the extra mile to drive Santa Cruz to buy my roti from Roti Cafe, because for years, Sharon Sajuddin and her family have been making good, perfect roti time and time again. They just wrap their roti in wax paper and then foil to keep it hot. The extra foil is extra money, and they don't charge more money than every other roti shop. So that means they're losing money to do that. It's made with love, and they care about their customers. The point I want to make is, you not going to care about the race of the person making that roti, or flying that plane, or driving that car. You just want what you came for. Your seamstress or your tailor does not have to be black. They don't have to be white. They don't have to be Indian. A Trinidadian Indian who's known as a black man just got the order of the British Empire as a tailor on Savile Row. A fellow named Ramroop. Why do we continue to encourage so much nonsense in our country? Why do we continue to accept so much mediocrity in our country? You telling me 6 years in office, all the shit Rohan Sinanan talk, you can't fire a man yet. Rohan Sinanan destroyed lives in Tobago with that ferry fiasco. Rohan Sinanan is responsible for at least a few deaths that I know of because of the condition of the roads. One man on a bicycle slammed into a pothole recently and dead. You have the responsibility for lives. When people are swerving from potholes and crash and die, who do they blame? Who are they supposed to blame? look at this whole country. We weren't set up to deal with any interruption of our education system. It was so much shit already. We have an education system that costs taxpayers $5 billion a year. And outside of the $900 million for teachers, I don't know where the other $4.1 billion go, but every school having carnival fete to raise millions to run this school. CIC, Fatima, QRC is a fete venue. QRC having 3 and 4 fete a year now. Their whole corners are billboard. And all of it is to make money. But how, why? We're spending $4.1 billion that we can't account for. What we're spending it on? New editions of books. Is it that the Education Facilities Company Limited has been used as a means for people to enrich themselves, changing the date and the color of the cover on a book and bringing out new books? All of this. WASA say they have 3,000 employees being paid a salary that they can't account for. 6 years they paying them in office. You now know this. How many ministers of public utilities have you had? How many? All of this is criminal, jailable offenses. All of this comes out of the pockets of the taxpayers. How do you end up with 3,000 people that drawing a salary every month that you don't know who they are? That's at least $15 million each and every month loss. How do you not know? That is what shut Petrotrin down. Because when Metal bought ISPAT from Trinidad, that Eric Williams fought with money away on, when Metal bought ISPAT, fired the managers, reorganized the workers, kept the thing exactly as it was, and became one of the richest men in the world. With the only steel plant he had was the ISPAT plant that he changed the name to ArcelorMittal, and he went on to corner the steel market on planet Earth from Trinidad. But we can't do that because we just put shithounds in office. And to the people of Trinidad and Tobago who want advice, who come to me and message me when all of the shit that I tell you is going to blows up in your world. You don't care before. You don't care. You don't care when we raise issues that affect other people because it's not affecting you. But from the moment it's affecting you, you run to find me because there's nobody else. There are people who have been called up as reserve soldiers who are not getting time off from their boss. And they're asking me how to fix that. The kind of messages I get, if I spend 1 week just reading those messages, look, I need to talk to you about something very important. The messages start like that. Or they start like, I've been following you for a long time. I watch all your videos. I'm very supportive of you, but you're not a member. Or you're not making financial contributions, you're watching the videos for free. And you know in your mind, and you park it up and you say, if ever this shit hit the fan, I'm gonna call Philip Alexander. So you know that that is an option. And that's when you turn to me. And anytime I get a message on WhatsApp or any other platform from somebody who I have never spoken to before, and they say, hey, loving what you're doing a fantastic job, I hear and I'm supporting you. 9 times out of 10, I wait for here's why I write in here. Because the first part is the love up and the kiss up and make you happy. The second part is why they really contact you, they want your help. Every now and then, I will get one that is just a message that says, hey, you're a fantastic job. Keep up the good work, I in your quarter. They ask for nothing. And that's always a shock. And that is why the candlelight movement became such a massive thing so quickly in this country. Because so many people feel abandoned by the system, by the country, by the government, by the state. They're abandoned. They go into an office of state and they can't deal with nobody else. They have to, this is the only game in town. You had to go through this. You bounce up a hog, or you bounce up somebody who don't like you because of race, or you bounce up somebody who don't like you because they know you from before. Or whatever the reason they don't like you, they decide to make your life hell. And there's nobody else for you to turn to. You end up in the hospital with your child bleeding, or you're not breathing, you can't get, because you don't know who to call, or you can't get an ambulance because you don't know who to call, and you can't get any kind of representation or service, and you don't know who to turn to and report all these people to, and you keep expecting that if Trinidad was a real country, that if somebody treats you like crap, and if you go and you make a report to their superior, the superior would get involved, not go back in the kitchen with them, make 2 cups of coffee and laugh at you. Because everybody know they're just protecting each other and everybody have each other back, and is the state against the people, and the people are now starting to realize that nothing really works. COVID-19 ripped the mask off bare. It's hard to not see how incapable and incompetent. When you have a minister of health organize a vaccine rollout that has been, according to the Prime Minister, in the planning for 6 months. The Prime Minister, this don't happen just so, you know. It just take a while. You just have to do this, you just have to do that, this, that. Okay, so you know. So while it's coming, the $5 billion a year Ministry of Health should have been modeling, should have been planning. Modeling is, how do we do this? We want to vaccinate 1 million people. Let's break it down by numbers. How do we get that done? How do we get 1 million people vaccinated in the fastest way possible? How do we maximize the organization of state and all the organs of state? How do we use what systems, what transportation, what time and motion, what finance, what budget, what measurable metric, what location for the movement of people? When Trinidadians coming on the walls and writing suggestions, use the schools, use the malls, use the churches, it's not for a lack of idea. They just don't care. They don't care. The man pulling it out his ass. He failed on the first day and pull the next thing out his ass. Hey, alphabetical. We'll try that. Everybody from A to E tomorrow. It came from Indy Alsing's ass. It's not predicated on science. So when people go and send graphs of the name breakdown, the name breakdown graph, it was so easy to get. The Alsing couldn't get that. So we're going to run our public health based on what the Alsing finds in his ass. Because his first day was everybody come. That didn't work. All right, A to E. So today, F to J is supposed to be bouncing up with A to E, but everybody went and they only had 50 vaccines. And the people saying, look, I know what them jackasses tell all you, but we only have 50 vaccines. So the first 50 people come. An old lady called me from Petit Valley and she said the people tell her, they say, how to get back? They said, come back on Thursday, come 4:45. She said, but 5 o'clock is the curfew. Well, you had to take a chance. We're in a country where the public health officials telling the citizens to break the curfew if they need to get a vaccine. Now you tell me how today both Terence D. Alsing and Keith Rowley still have jobs. If they didn't have a state of emergency, for that alone, if you could put them thousands of people and don't even have to talk prophylaxis, don't even have to talk register, get them names, contact trace. Right now, COVID-19 pandemic, it's killing people, it want to kill the children, it's killing the fowl and the ducks in the yard. It's serious, it's bad. So let's get to deal with them now. Let's find out all the people that we screwed up because we infected all of them. We put them in congested zones of viral transmission. It's not real, it's bullshit. Because if it was real, the country would be panicking right now. The same way the Neanderthals and knuckle draggers want to talk about the couple thousand people that went to candlelight vigils, who social distance, wore masks, and were very orderly. You're not talking about these people. It was so much crowd, people end up playing all fours in the line. And you had nothing in place. And you put all of those, especially elderly people, in danger. And you didn't fire that son of a bitch yet. Keith Rowley, you give a shit about nobody. You don't give a shit about nobody. So today, we suffer with what came out of Terence D. Alsing's ass. And Parashram, Trotman, Richards, Hines, and D. Alsing, what came out of their collective asses is read to us every Saturday on these bullshit press conferences that the average school child will tell you does not make sense. They don't know what they are doing. They are underqualified, incompetent, lost at sea. And the problem is, in situations like this, when these people who are unfit for the job, square pegs in round holes, when they screw up, it costs lives. That's the truth. That's the God honest truth. Everything else doesn't matter. Stay safe.